Here on CNC3, we were speaking with Mark Loquan. He's president of NGC. Mr. Loquan, we were talking about NGC's plans for 2018. But from the downstream aspect, are your partners satisfied?
Well, I think when it comes to the shortage situation, obviously that cannot be the case. What we've been trying to do with the downstream companies, we have a Point Lisa's Energy Association meeting every couple of months. And that is where NGC informs what is going on. So I think from an information perspective within the boundaries of confidentiality, we have been trying to talk about the broad situation of what's going on. And of course that is going on in parallel with several conversations with the downstream industry, who faces quite some challenges because you know, they're trying to make decisions on their turnarounds and investments going forward. And we are now in a state where all the upstream negotiations aren't really completed. So there is a state of uncertainty now in the industry. And we are trying to, as I guess, at best, try to solve some of these issues by greater information and dialogue with the companies, which is what we're doing individually.
But how has the closure of the two MHTL plants affected NGC and affected your relations with your other partners?
Well, the closure of the MHTL plants has more to do with the fact that you have plants that are coming off contract while you have a limited supply of molecules to satisfy the existing customers. So it's a situation that is, you know, when you step back a bit, the molecules going into the petrochemical sector, you're trying to improve it because that is a sector that has been around for a long time and it generates your foreign exchange for the country. So it's not a good situation to be in by any means. But of course, I have just spoken about some of the efforts in trying to solve the issues, and you can see a lot more activity on the upstream side, where the fundamentals lie. NGC does not store gas. We can only contract gas to supply the downstream sector. It does beg the question, though, in terms of how we are getting value for all the molecules, including the electricity sector, which consumes you know, roughly 250 million standard cubic feet per day of gas, which is equivalent to 5 plants.
But there's a lot of wastage during that process. I mean, turning it into electricity, there's a lot of wastage.
It's not the most efficient use of electricity, of gas by any means, because, I mean, you have a sector that is filled with simple cycle turbines, combined cycle turbines. The combined cycle, like TGU, is of course more efficient because you're using the waste heat to generate electricity. And that's what TNTech has been doing, shifting some of the load to the more efficient units, which is freeing up some molecules as well. And we are in conversations with them to try to improve the situation molecularly.
Could you tell us the status of some of the gas contracts which would have been up in 2017, or are they up this year? Train 1 LNG is up this year. What is the status of that? I remember the Prime Minister, while he was speaking in Panama, he was saying that a decision will be taken as to whether or not operations at LNG Train 1 would be extended. What is your position, and what is NGC saying on this?
Well, as you realize, the contract for Train 1 is expiring the end of 2018.
End of 2018.
And of course, how the contracts are renewed and how the molecules and decisions are made with respect to LNG versus a petchem chain is really government decision. So NGC is, of course, trying to solve the issues with the upstreamers, but and the petchem sector, but we also would like to see the whole sector improve. The contract issue specifically needs to be dealt with between the shareholders of LNG and the ministry, also in making some of the decisions. As you're aware, the gas master plan spoke about allocation policy at a time when the molecules are short. And therefore the decisions around whether you send your molecule for value to a petchem chain or you export it does need careful evaluation by the government. So this is not an NGC decision by any means. Yes.
Well, how about the Dragon project? Because I also remember the Prime Minister was saying that, you know, substantial investment has to be made by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and he did say that NGC will have to find the money.
Well, as you appreciate, NGC is part of the discussions with Shell and PDVSA, and as you're aware, there was a government-to-government agreement which started this whole process at the end of 2016. And then it went on further into a heads of agreement with all the three companies who have been in a lot of discussions, I would say, commercially and technically in trying to make this, you know, translate into a concrete term sheet that both countries could agree on.
I guess I'm asking you, given the decline in the economy, in the industry, can NGC find the money to partially fund the project?
Well, in this case, NGC is having some of these discussions, and we do have a healthy balance sheet. So when it comes to growing as a company, I mean, the intention is to also have project financing as required. Those conversations, I would say, have been slowed down a bit with some of the issues going on with the U.S. sanctions and changes going on at the, you know, different levels in the ministry and PDVSA. But in terms of the teams working and so on, the will is still there, the motivation is still there, which is a sound basis to proceed. It's a critical juncture, I would say, where we are at, so I won't comment further on it, but it is interesting challenges at a time. You know?
Mr. Loquan, you present at noon, so as we close, could you tell us what people can expect? What can the delegates expect?
I think what you can expect is how we are approaching some of the solutions in collaboration with several of the stakeholders, because we are now in a world where we can no longer just be doing things in our separate silos. We must be working together in a different way, in a more urgent way, for the long term of this country and for the benefit of this country. So the idea of talking about petchem chain or LNG chains must translate to some value for Trinidad and Tobago, and it's really where NGC is pitching the whole conversation is how do we develop and maximize the value for Trinidad and Tobago, where are the opportunities that lie in such a difficult time in this industry, and how do we capitalize it as several stakeholders in the country.
Opportunities at a difficult time in the country's economy and in the country's history. Mr. Loquan presents at noon right here at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. We now go to a quick break. Stay with us. We have much more up next.